you.
Yes.
The personal profile.
Streaming live. You guys,
Welcome.
welcome back.
Glad to have you back.
And yeah, I think I heard Matthew's come in a little bit later. How was your, oh great, Elena's joined us. How was your week this past week, guys?
Good.
Good.
Busy and good.
Good week.
Whoop.
I'm sleepy.
Let's host a group.
Let's host a group. Oh, wow. If I just start nodding off, it's fine. It's what I do whenever people read words at me. So we'll go ahead and get started. Hey, Elena.
Hi, Elena.
Elena is our CYL friend.
Yes.
She's the
Hello,
best.
everybody. I will show up myself, but I'm so sick.
Oh, honey, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I checked. Looks like it's not COVID, thanks God. However, I'm so sick, so I will be like a fly on the wall today.
That's great. That's totally fine. Oh, I'm happy I got to see your face. You look amazing for being under the weather. Your background is beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, well, just fly on the wall. That's totally fine. You can shut your video off. That's wonderful.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
take care of you,
understanding.
darling. Thank you for joining us, even though you're not feeling well.
Yeah.
Yeah, great to be here. Sure.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pull our book up. Maybe. Yep.
Maybe.
All right, here we go. So, we are just still kind of in the beginning of chapter 1. So, right in that section of conditional versus real love. So it's about, if you're on Kindle, it's about 16 pages in. I'm not quite sure what page that is in the paperback book. And pardon me, I'm sorry.
Page 8.
Page 8 in the paperback. Okay.
Mhm.
Wow, we're really moving through this thing. High speed. All right. I'll go ahead and start reading. Guys, if you feel like you're great readers and you want to read and you feel drawn to it, you can definitely raise your hand to jump in with us. But I'll go ahead and get us started. Todd, did you have anything you wanted to say before I jump into this?
I don't think so, but I can talk about anything you want.
Okay. All right, we're just going to go ahead and jump in then.
Just say, Todd, talk about this, and I will.
You're so obedient.
Very obedient. I'm very compliant.
I know, you're so great. Okay.
I'm in a happy marriage.
That's right. Happy. I wonder about that statement, happy wife, happy life. I think it's accurate. But what about happy husband?
I think I read something about that statement not too long ago, and I think was spoken of or in a written about in a negative way, because it almost has a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, you could say in one way, yeah. I mean, if you focus on your partner's happiness, then you'll both be happy.
Always, yeah.
Wherever that is.
Yeah, always. All right, cool. We often try to justify our disappointment and anger by explaining that we're disappointed or angry at our spouse's behavior, but not at them. That is really the entire truth. Let's suppose, for example, that your wife fails to give you an important phone message. You might claim that you're irritated only by the inconvenience, but be honest here. After her mistake, do you feel any differently toward her? Before you deny it, ask yourself whether you tend to avoid her physically or verbally, or speak to her in a different tone when she makes mistakes like this. You probably give off 100 signals that something is different in the way you feel about her, and she feels that. Almost all of us feel some disappointment and irritation when our spouses inconvenience us, and those feelings always indicate that we didn't get something we wanted. Those instances, we can't be unconditionally concerned about their happiness. If you continue to have doubts about whether you often love your spouse conditionally, ask her if you treat her differently when she does something you don't like. When we're disappointed or angry, our spouses know that our primary concern is for ourselves. That's not real love. And the effect is uniformly damaging. So just a note here for those of you who are joining us for the first time, whether it's about her, think about what your wife thinks about. It's, also if you're female, you think about what your husband thinks about. If you're in a different orientation relationship, just disregard that and just know that we're talking about kind of a they them situation.
Yeah, Greg mentions that in the beginning of the book.
Yeah.
The pronouns are all interchangeable.
Yeah. All right. What we use without enough real love, imitation love. Without sufficient real love in our lives, the pain and emptiness are intolerable. And in order to eliminate or reduce those feelings, we're willing to do almost anything. Everything we use as a substitute for real love to temporarily make us feel better in the absence of what we really need becomes a form of imitation love. And all those substitutes are one or more variations of four things: praise, power, pleasure, and safety.
I'll go.
Yeah.
I'll do praise because it has to do with approval seeking, which is close to home for me. So,
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Praise. When people give us their approval, we feel praised and worthwhile. And if we can't get the real love we need, we'll do a lot to win that approval. Regrettably, we almost always have to earn it. In order for people to smile at us, compliment us, and want to spend time with us, all signs that they accept or love us. We have to be talented, beautiful, wealthy, witty, cooperative, grateful, successful, or otherwise worthy of acceptance. That kind of acceptance is conditional because all the signs of it, the smiles and kind words, for example, disappear when we make mistakes, inconvenience people, and fail to live up to the expectations of others. Because the absence of real love is painful, we're willing to do a lot to earn the approval that temporarily makes us feel good, even if it's conditional. For example, we make ourselves look good physically with exercise, clothing, makeup, dieting, even starvation and plastic surgery, all in the hope that someone will say, "You're looking good." We work hard to succeed at school and our jobs in order to be complimented for our intelligence, creativity, and diligence. But consider how you feel after working hard for hours, days, even years, when you finally get that precious morsel of praise from a spouse or anyone else. How long does it last? In just a moment or two, the feeling is gone, and then you have to work to earn it all over again. Buying praise with our behavior or appearance is a lot of work, and because it's usually not given unconditionally, we're left with an empty feeling even when we get it. Another reason praise is often unfulfilling is that when most people praise us, they're rarely saying something about us. They're saying that when we're cooperative and perform according to their expectations, they like how we make them feel. I love that statement because I think it's really, really the crux of praise. Yeah. I've heard Susan say this many times in her teaching. They like how we make them feel. That's why we're getting praise. It's not necessarily about what we did. It's about the fact that they feel good about what we did. Yeah. But we're quite willing to keep on doing whatever it takes to earn the sensation of praise, gratitude, and acceptance, because it's still much better than the emptiness that accompanies a lack of real love.
Yeah. Does anybody have anything they'd like to say on that? Have you been like me where, you've wanted to gain that approval and acceptance, or didn't feel that way maybe growing up, or in your partner relationship or relationships of the past? Have you ever experienced that where you're like, I'm really disappointed that they're not fulfilling what I think they should be doing? I mean, if we want to get real honest, you can definitely do that here, or you can just talk about what your thoughts are about this. Do you feel it's accurate?
Yes.
All of that.
All of that. What you said. It is. It's so addictive. And I would always say I'm a total praise whore or praise junkie, depending on my audience. And over time, I learned what the reason I wanted praise is because it made me feel safe. So it's really that I'm a safety junkie, but it took me a year to figure out that really what I was after was that feeling safe when you compliment me or appreciate me, because then I think you're not going to leave me, you know, I won't lose my source of love.
I can concur with that. I had to figure this out too. Praise and approval was big for growing up for me. And so I internalized the lack of receiving approval as a lack, as not feeling safe, because disapproval equaled being unlovable. It equaled death in a way. So it just comes down to whatever your vices are. You know, I mean, how do you translate that feeling of physical or emotional abandonment, for example, into the myriad of behaviors and such, whatever those, how do those core fears manifest, in other words? And for me, they manifested as someone pulling away their approval growing up meant that, oh shit, well, there was a lot of guilt instilled with that too. For me, there was a lot of guilt imprinted upon me. So I felt guilty as a result of if I sensed that I wasn't getting approval for something. It's a beautiful way to live, quite graceful. No, it's not a great way to,
Not a good look.
no, it's not a good look. And I've worked on that quite a bit, and I've written about that a lot too. And Susan's helped me on that a lot too, with real love coaching and whatnot. But it's huge. And I know certain personality types are more subject to approval and that kind of thing.
High performers.
High performers, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
I think they get a sense of praise and power maybe
Well,
from their accomplishment.
John L. used to say, we choose our drug, I think is what she would say. We choose our drug. So if it's performance, then I'm either performing or not performing to give me my own sense of approval.
Mhm.
You know, do I feel bad about myself unless I'm performing, for example? You know, so it doesn't even have to be an outside job about someone withholding approval or not. It could just be me criticizing the hell out of myself and denying my own sense of love for approval. So
Yeah. And then also too, you know, in that mirroring aspect of, you know, if I am already super self-critical, I'm going to attract a partner
oh yeah,
who will potentially be critical too, you know, like and energy, and we attract what we are, not what we want.
yeah.
And so if we are critical of ourselves, we might attract a partner who is very critical of us too. And by no fault of their own, I know that there have been times where I've had relationships, and I've worked with people in relationships too, where they say things like, I don't normally act like this. I don't know if you guys have seen that before, Susan. Where I don't act like this with anybody else but her or him. And it's just like they bring this out in me.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yes, they do bring that out in you because they're trying to actually energetically heal. This is beyond the book here. They're trying to energetically heal that part of them that they feel is truly unlovable. And they're using you as a surrogate. This would be in my book, to help them process that. So yeah, it's interesting.
Parent tape got inadvertently activated or triggered, probably.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's in my experience. That's what's happening.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever that strong psychology is that you don't know is going on, that's highly conditioned in you. Someone is inadvertently triggering it, and you don't know that it has to do with your core programming, and that's why you're getting triggered. Then they bring that out of you.
Right. And so we can in those moments go, wow, we are both really innocent in this.
Right.
You know, and it's hard to do that in the moment, in the heat of the moment. But yeah, I think that's more when we get into the power piece right here. So let's move into that. Do you want to do that one?
I'm more than happy to continue,
Okay, go
unless
ahead.
anybody else wants to. Power. Although was everybody cool with the praise section?
Anybody else want to
Does
say?
anybody want to express approval or disapproval about how I did that? Okay. Power. Although it's mostly unintentional, anytime we successfully manipulate or control someone, we enjoy a sensation of power over that person. We use money, authority, sex, flattery, and personal personal persuasion to influence, control, and even hurt people. When you control someone, you actually feel more connected to him or her in a brief, shallow way. That is insidious right there. It's not real love, but when you control the people around you, you feel less powerless. That is absolutely true. You feel less of the emptiness and helplessness that are always associated with a lack of real love. We tend to deny. I think that's why commiserating works so effectively, because people get to trade a little bit of power in the, to feel temporarily less alone, perhaps.
Oh yeah, especially if you have somebody that your ire is directed towards. Like if you're commiserating over a boss or over a family member or over a something.
Victimhood also.
It is. And then, but it's they're finding the group to attack and then that they can get a power hit off of them.
Yeah, that's it.
Sharing special hate, I think is what you call that,
Yeah.
Susan, right?
Yeah.
Sharing special hate.
Yeah. That's what I was. That's what
And
I
every
was.
once in a while, it can be really fun.
We tend to deny our efforts to control our spouses. It's not a flattering behavior to admit, but whenever we try to get people to do anything, we're controlling them and using power as a form of imitation love. Yeah. If you doubt that you control your spouse, consider how you feel when he doesn't do what you want. Yeah. Your disappointment or anger indicate that you want to control his or her behavior. Yeah. However unconscious your efforts may be. Absolutely. I find that very true for me when I am asking for your opinion on something.
Me?
You.
Oh,
Yeah, you.
I'm married. I'm the one that married you.
Well, there's a difference between asking someone's honest opinion, whatever, and then being okay with anything they say.
Yeah.
And that's the case more often than not. But there are instances where I've been in behavior and I've not really been terribly aware of it. And I'll ask, and then as soon as you say something I don't want to hear, I would be disappointed in what and make a comment. Well, really, it's this, or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
And just because a lot of time I think when we ask for people's opinions, we really want to be told what we want to hear anyway. We're really looking for validation or approval, as opposed to honest opinion. But as we learn how to pull off these things more, then we can become more open to hearing very helpful and constructive feedback and etc.
Yeah. And I'm a tough cookie too.
She is so tough.
I don't impress easy.
She is so tough. I have had to perform like the Dickens.
Dancing, singing. He's got to present it to me properly. And then I'm like,
Juggling.
Yes.
I have learned so many new wonderful talents and skill sets as an entertainer as a result of being afraid of losing her love and approval. So it's actually been constructive.
Yeah. I mean, everybody wants to learn how to
Kidding.
juggle.
I knew how to juggle before we met.
That
In
is
my
true.
defense.
That was the thing on my I want to have list relationship. If you guys, do the law of attraction thing, and I had my long laundry list of all the things I wanted in a partner, and he ticked all the boxes, except I didn't know if he could juggle or not, because I put that on there because I want to be entertained. And so I had already moved. Had I already moved? I think I'd already moved to St. Louis.
No, you hadn't.
Okay.
Not yet.
And he just was standing in the kitchen and he grabbed 3 pieces of fruit and he started juggling. And I was like, "You're the one." You're the one.
Little did I know.
Right. Little did he know.
And side note, the humor that we interject is to bring levity to some of this stuff, because it's heavy. It's not always easy. It can be thick, and it's also for pattern interrupt to help you to integrate the material, to anchor it and laugh about it and stuff too. So We're not just being silly for the sake of being silly. Right.
And I will say too, when we look at something like power, it is kind of a really interesting thing. Attack, and power go hand in hand. So the one that I had to get my mind around was unsolicited advice. I really had to get my mind around that one because one, as a clinician, people were asking me about things. And so if I had a friend and they're kind of asking me, maybe nonchalant, and I'd be like, oh, do this. And they're like, I'm not really asking you for your opinion or your advice,
Right.
and it's like, no, take my advice because
Right.
I know what's best, and so for me, that's kind of where it shows up for me, in my
It's a
experience.
very common thing for me to have grown up with is when you talk about anything, someone's trying to solve your problem and they're trying to do it to be nice, to be helpful.
Totally.
But that's because nobody knows real love nobody knows that seeing. You have to learn that seeing and not solving is what makes people feel love.
And so that's a good tip here, guys, is asking, do you want my opinion? Do you want my help? Or do you just need time to think about this, process this, talk about this? Do you need a vent or do you need to get this thing solved? And just asking that one question is very powerful.
Framing things, I think I mentioned this last week, framing things like that before getting into a discussion is so helpful to help the partner know how to show up, especially someone you are in a relationship with, because you deal with a lot more in your relationships. It's not just work, it's not just personal if you have a business together. So saying what you need, even when you begin talking, helps too, because as much as I know, I can be, catch me on the wrong day, I could be more likely to troubleshoot whatever you're saying, especially if I see that you're upset. That's going to make me more likely to want to solve your problem because it's wired into me that way. So that's still something we're working on. But if she's conscious to say, okay,
solve it.
I'm feeling something right now, I just need to be seen on it. That triggers me to reframe myself. That reframes me. Or if I remember to say, how do you need me to show up right now? That's really great if I'm able to remember to say that. And
It's
then
super helpful.
when we do, then the conversation doesn't go off the rails. It stays very productive. You know what the other person's needing and wanting, and you're not trying to burn energy on things that they're not actually asking for. It's very effective.
Yeah.
Productive.
Yeah. And power in the state of getting something, it's just figuring out for yourself, if I'm in this attack mode or if I am in this unsolicited advice mode, because there are just so many levels of power and levels of attack that it's
Clinging is also unsolicited advice.
Yeah. Is that there's like this whole, spectrum. And so if I'm trying to get power, if I notice it in myself, which is hard to do, but it's having that radical responsibility, taking responsibility for your own mindset choices, where you are, how you're feeling in that moment, is saying, okay, am I trying to get power right now? Or on the other side of that, are they trying to get power from me? Because if they're trying to get power from me because they're attacking me, yelling at me, telling me I'm wrong, telling me I'm the bad guy in the situation, whatever it might be, if they're trying to get, that means they're empty. So I can, in that moment, go, how can I have more love and compassion in this situation? Or do I just keep going, in the way that I'm going? Or how can I just leave the field of death, right? Like what Susan and I and our kind of folks say. Okay, move on. Anybody else have anything to say?
Yeah, feel free. Anyone?
No? Okay. All right, pleasure. I'll do this one.
Was there a comment that we missed?
No, I think Susan was just saying something cute.
Okay. Cute. Cute's allowed.
Cute's allowed. Pleasure. When we don't feel unconditionally loved, we often use pleasure, food, sex, drugs, and many forms of entertainment and excitement to feel better temporarily. This is probably one of my bigger ones. Praise and pleasure are probably my bigger ones. Certainly there's nothing inherently wrong with pleasure, but when we compulsively seek it, we're using it to fill a deep emptiness. Well, that was that.
That was pleasure.
That was pleasure. Yeah, that's it.
Wait, when we don't feel conditioned. Yeah.
I think that's enough.
Wait.
Okay.
Yeah, that's very stilted. I mean, it's there's a lot more that can be said about that. Pleasure is the ego's playground.
Yeah.
Yeah. We can,
No, we'll just
can
move on.
go.
But basically that would be more attached to running behaviors and
overindulgence.
sometimes addictions and things like that as well.
Overindulgence is a good one. Go ahead.
Yeah. Safety without sufficient real love, we're already experiencing an insufferable pain. And we'll go to great lengths to keep ourselves safe from anything that might prolong or worsen our pain. To minimize painful disapproval, we stay away from unfamiliar situations, tasks, and relationships. And then we confuse that feeling of relative safety with real happiness. I've known many couples who believed they had a good marriage until they discovered that their happiness was only an avoidance of conflict, not sharing of real love.
That's true. That was true for us too.
Excuse me.
I felt that was true before we did the 40 days of real love.
Yeah. It's that trading thing. It's that, protection thing. I'm going to have you keep going here. 'Cause I
Okay.
gotta cough.
Keep reading.
Yeah. Or talk more about safety.
Yeah, well, we did have a pretty good marriage before 40 days of real love, but you don't know what you don't know. And then once you dig in deeper, man, that was the biggest. I don't know if Susan recommended that or Greg or not Greg, but somebody else in group. But when we did that 40 days of real love with the Real Love and Marriage book, wow, was that a game changer? It was, yeah, there it is right there. Susan's holding it up. It was good. But then it was tough too, but then we became way stronger because we didn't realize how much conflict that we were harboring that we weren't even really sharing with each other.
Yeah.
Susan
showed it.
Susan was holding it.
So yeah, exactly. It was like, I did not realize how much of safety horror I was because I was always protecting, like, don't touch my sunburn, don't touch my wound. If you touch it, I'm going to break apart, and I did. And I had to break apart, in order to get to the ooey gooey center.
That's the best part.
That I was protecting. And then once I got to the ooey gooey center, I realized it wasn't as ooey and gooey as I thought it was.
What was it?
Oh, many things. I had to tell my truth on everything.
There was a lot you felt. We both, not just you.
Holding guilt and shame.
There was a lot we felt unlovable about that we weren't sharing, that we didn't know to share, and we didn't know that it was going to make a difference after we would have shared it.
Right.
So yeah, that was huge.
All right. By no means are praise, power, pleasure, and safety always unhealthy in the presence of real love. Money, authority, sex, and praise, for example, can all add to our genuine happiness. These things are dangerous only when they're used as substitutes for unconditional love. Okay. So with that section, does anybody have anything that they want to share or say or contribute at all? Pretty straightforward.
The behaviors, you mean, or the imitation love components? Comments or questions about praise, power, pleasure, and safety?
Okay. So I think we've talked a little bit about how they kind of show up. It could be anything from I get angry over the littlest thing, but it's actually not what I'm angry about. So let's say his job is to do the dishes and he doesn't do the dishes and I get angry about it. And this is what he was talking about in the first part of the book. Is it really about the dishes? And oftentimes it's not. It's about me trying to get power because I'm feeling helpless in that moment for some reason, but it may not have anything to do with the dishes. It's just a projection of where I think my partner should be showing up and he's not, or something else altogether different. Could be just a bad day and he's just the outlet.
You're in attack if you're having an expectation or being disappointed. You are in attack.
Yeah.
But all events are neutral. So the dishes are just the dishes, right? Until we weaponize them to break that dish over someone else.
That's right. Weaponizing dishes, marriages from the centuries.
and did we do behaviors yet? I don't think yet.
No, not yet.
Okay. So the imitation, we've been dabbling in behaviors like anger and whatnot, which is attack. But we haven't talked about, the imitation love that we just did, praise, power, pleasure, safety. That is what we try to get instead of real love when we're feeling empty. And so that's why, and they come out via, behaviors, right? Control is an attacking behavior. So that I use on the dishes when my partner is not doing the dishes, so that I can feel a sense of power temporarily by nagging them, saying, damn it, you should have done this, or blaming, kind of thing.
Yeah. All right. So does anybody want to help us read? Sure. Hi, Matthew.
Hi, Matthew.
You made it. I was like,
Looks
as he was getting on the couch, I was like, can I just say something? And then I was like, oh no, sorry, go ahead.
I was looking at my Facebook there.
All right, falling in love. The nature and effect of imitation love. People who consistently use addictive drugs soon discover that the effect becomes increasingly brief and more of the drug is required in order to achieve the same outcome. All the forms of imitation love are like an addictive drug. Despite all the effort required to earn imitation love, the beneficial effects of praise, power, money, and sex become increasingly brief. We have to work harder to get more and more, and eventually we become exhausted and frustrated. And no matter how successful we are in obtaining imitation love, we never get the feeling of connection with other people that comes with real love. So we're still painfully alone. Regrettably, imitation love does feel good, and it's easy to confuse that temporary satisfaction with genuine happiness. That self-deception distracts us from pursuing the life-giving steps that lead to real love. When we see the role and effect of imitation love, we can more easily understand interactions like the one I described earlier between Mark and Susan. When they first met, they fell madly in love and were certain it would last forever. So what happened? How did these two go from violins playing and birds singing to the place where they bit each other's heads off over something as meaningless as ketchup on the wall? In the absence of sufficient real love, we're strongly attracted to anyone who gives us imitation love. When Mark met Susan, he found her physically attractive, which gave him immediate pleasure and suggested the possibility of more physical pleasure in the future. And he sensed that she accepted him and was willing to behave in certain ways to win his approval, which gave him feelings of praise and power. She was attracted to him because he was good looking, funny, smart, and kind to her, and because he had a good job, all of which gave her a sense of praise, pleasure, and safety. Unwittingly, they were both trading imitation love with each other. Susan and Mark married because they found in their partner the qualities that would entertain them and make them feel worthwhile and give them safety, not because they unconditionally loved each other. Most of us pick our partners for the same reason. We look for someone who has qualities that will temporarily make us feel good, and in return, we're quite willing to do the same for that person. In order to get the imitation love that temporarily makes us feel better in the absence of real love, we buy it with whatever forms of imitation love we have to offer. Let's arbitrarily measure imitation love in dollars. And we'll suppose that when you give $1 of imitation love to someone, that person gives you 20 cents in return. To a second person, you give $1 and receive 50 cents. Without being aware of the reason, you naturally prefer the company of the person who gives you 50% return on your investment. That's why we like some people more than others. Then you give $1 of imitation love to someone who gives you a full $1 in return. Excited about this dramatic improvement in your investment return, you give him or her $2, then $3, then more. And to your delight, you are rewarded equally each time. You are now in love. You want me to keep going? You guys good?
No, let's pause there.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts, Susan?
I just love it. I do believe that trading happens more in the beginning. And for me, like with Matthew in particular, there was an earning, like to be top girl, like I wanted to earn my spot as the queen. So I think there definitely is trading, but I really like that. Also, the idea that in that early period, we are seeing each other through the eyes of source, right? So there is some genuine love in that. So that, yeah, I can relate to the trading. And then I'm like, and also that initial time is the time when we have the grace to suspend judgment. And that part's important.
Right. Right. Yeah. I've seen that with friendships, I've seen that with, I've seen that in relationships, I definitely have been that gal, like I'm your go-to gal, earn the queen spot, right? That kind of thing. Not so much with him, which is right there. Oh. Not so much with him. I kind of just got the queen spot when you decided this was the right thing for you. It was like, it wasn't even about earning it. It was like, you are it, and it was the same for me. And then we had to work out our communication issues, but ultimately I do see a lot of this, of I give you this much, you give me this much. And it's very, very unconscious, they talk about locking in the exchange rate later on in the book when it comes to like sex, how much sex or physical intimacy do I get, at the beginning of the relationship and later on in the relationship and all that kind of stuff. So there's some sexy stuff at the end. So stick around, folks.
For sexy time. Oh, wait, that's a different thing, right?
Yeah. Anybody else have anything they want to add to this section here? Have you seen that for yourself or anybody else? No. Okay. Great. Just us. It's just us.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to keep reading, Susan? Do you feel like it?
You don't have to.
Yeah, no, I like to. Mark had said complimentary things to other people all his life, but when he gave them $1 of praise, he rarely got $1 of praise, power, pleasure, and safety in return. Then he met Susan. When he gave her $1 of praise, verbal and nonverbal, she immediately responded by accepting him, praise, doing some of the things he wanted, power, and physically touching him, pleasure, at least $1 altogether. So he gave her even more imitation love, the best he had to offer. And when she responded generously, he was so thrilled with the exchange that he called the feeling falling in love. Falling in love usually means that two people have found someone with whom they experience an abundant and relatively fair exchange of imitation love. That's not very romantic, but that's how it is when real love is lacking. As I've said, however, the effect of imitation love always fades, and Mark and Susan felt that. They really enjoyed the initial exchange of imitation love, but it wasn't long before that level of praise, power, and pleasure wasn't as rewarding as it once had been. When people say the excitement has worn off in a relationship, they're just describing the fleeting effect of imitation love. As we experience less happiness with imitation love, we naturally turn to our spouses to supply what we're missing, and our partners understandably feel resentful of our increased demands. They married us based on an unspoken understanding of how much imitation love they'd have to give us to make us happy, and then we changed the rules. Our spouses don't like that. As couples discover the transient effect of imitation love, they also invariably find the exchange of imitation love becomes unfair. We can roughly quantify the trading and fading of imitation love over the course of Mark and Susan's marriage. In the beginning, they exchanged imitation love as summarized below.
Relatively equal. Yeah, just
Yeah.
variance. Yeah.
In the beginning of their marriage, they both received $5 of praise as each of them complimented the other for a variety of qualities, including sexual desirability. They were equally successful in getting the other to do the things they wanted, $5 of power each. Mark got more physical pleasure from the relationship, mostly from sex, than Susan, $6 versus $2. But Susan got a greater sense of security, safety from the relationship than Mark did, $5 versus $1. Because they experienced more imitation love from each other and with a better rate of return on their investment than with anyone else they had known, they were in love and happy with their marriage. After several years, however, the trading had changed. Ooh, it was 8 Mark for Susan. It's not looking good for me. They both discover that the effect of flattery had quickly worn off and that constantly earning it was exhausting. So neither of them was willing to continue their initial efforts to praise each other. After years of marriage, Susan discovered she could hardly get Mark to do anything she wanted. $1 of power versus the $5 she got in the beginning of their relationship. So she tended to reward him with nagging instead of praise. Without sufficient praise and appreciation, Mark had even less motivation to keep doing what Susan wanted. Susan, however, still did most of the housework and childcare, so Mark got $3 of power from getting her to do what he wanted compared with the $5 he once got. He still got $4 of pleasure from the relationship, mostly from sex, while she got only $1, virtually nothing from sex, but some from other forms of entertainment they enjoyed together. Susan's sense of safety had been reduced to a single dollar because he often criticized her and because she wasn't sure of his fidelity when he looked at other women. Mark felt no safety at all. Susan nagged him about everything. What a miserable state of affairs. When they got married, what Mark and Susan both needed was real love, but neither of them had ever felt much unconditional love, so there was no way they could have loved each other as they needed. We simply can't give what we don't have, but they did offer each other what they had, imitation love in its various forms, and they gave as much as they could. Imitation love does feel good, and because they were both giving it with all their hearts, they were satisfied in the beginning of their marriage. But when the effect wore off and they each gave the other less of the various forms of imitation love, they felt like the rules of exchange had been violated. They were both faced with the horror that they were not going to get the happiness they'd wanted all their lives. Susan experienced more disappointment later in their marriage than Mark did. Not only was she disillusioned with the decline in her overall happiness, $4 of imitation love versus 17 in the beginning, but she sensed that their relationship was unfair. $4 for her versus 8 for Mark. It's common for one partner to believe the relationship is worse than the other partner does, because although both partners are far from genuinely happy, one of them, in this case Mark, is getting more imitation love than the other. In addition, although Mark wasn't ecstatic about his marriage, he was relatively satisfied because even though his total was down from $17 to $8, it was still better than he'd ever gotten before he was married. You can learn
If you want to pause. Yeah.
Okay, sure. There are 2 more paragraphs in that. But
Oh, that's it? Okay, great. Yeah, go for it.
we can learn a lot from Mark and Susan, although the details of our marriages vary. All unhappy couples experience the failures and injustices of imitation love. In 2003, a study was released that described the self-assessed level of happiness of 24,000 people over a period of 10 years. Although marriage gave people an initial emotional boost, on average, the effect completely wore off after a period of a few years, leaving married people no happier than they were before marriage. This is quite consistent with what I've said about the effects of imitation love. Many unhappy couples experience brief improvements in their marriages as they attempt to increase the imitation love in their relationship. Once, with the guidance of therapists or self-help books, they try to improve the sex in their marriage, for example, or their communication, which increases the amount of praise, power, pleasure, and safety they enjoy. without attending to the real love they need. Such efforts rarely produce lasting results.
Awesome. Very good.
It's so sad, Matthew says. It's so sad.
It is, but it's very, very common.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share about that section? Anybody got anything on that?
Matthew goes,
I don't like they made it into money.
yeah.
What did he say, honey?
He doesn't like they made it into money.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it feel cheap.
Yeah, exactly. It is cheap.
Yeah.
It is cheap. Imitation love is cheap. It's cotton candy in the desert instead of steak and potatoes, right? So it is cheap. And that's why he's doing it that way, to make it so base, and yeah. So that's huge. Yes, April.
So, because I did almost finish this book, and I'm a real love person these days, like learning all I can. And I did read the one on parenting. And, when we look at this that she just read, it almost makes me want to cry, because I think it is sad, that I think that's happening more often than not. And so then if you peel it all back, it goes back to wanting humans to have real love, right? Like when they enter a relationship, like,
Yeah.
that'd be wonderful if that could happen. And so the parenting book is very interesting to me. I'm around my grandchildren right now, and I'm kind of, occasionally infusing things, verbiage and such. And I think all is in divine order, of course. I'm not going to change the world. It's not my job. And but wow, wouldn't that be cool to to do the parenting part and raise humans that don't end up with the having to just do the imitation thing,
Right. To not have to seek it out because they're full more of the time.
right?
But
There's no purpose.
there's we live in the world of dichotomy, and we live in the world of lessons, and we're some lessons are in this in this kind of emotional piece. Some people have lessons in the physical piece, some people have lessons in spiritual piece, and if we can start out as full as possible, amazing. That doesn't mean we won't make bad choices, or you could, like Todd was saying last week, you could have two kids grow up, be twins, and take two very different positions on what they saw their parents doing or their grandparents doing or whatever, and where they had a completely full, amazing life, but something in their trajectory is showing them where they're not lovable. And when they go out into the world, because this world has so much imitation, so much trading, so much get this for this, and even if they're saturated in the real love world and teachings, who's to say they don't go out in the real world and they go, oh crap, I don't know how to handle all of this trading stuff because I've never been on a trading situation before. And so that can be kind of challenging too. So we don't know what anything means or anything's for. We don't know what they need. But I think if you can be the most loving, amazing grandma, mom in the world, that's pretty cool. I had a very unconditionally loving grandmother. And without her, I said this many, many times, if she didn't exist, I would have committed suicide way long time ago, probably 10 years old. I probably would have committed suicide. And so, for that, you don't know the actual effect that you have when you are just truly unconditionally loving, with your kids, grandkids, and partners, to say, you be who you are. Like, hear her voice in the head. You be who you are, darling. You be who you are, sugar. and you just come on, see grandma whenever you can. Okay.
love it. Yeah.
Yeah. She was my safe place.
Yeah.
And not because I was trading for safety. She was my safe place because she never had an expectation of me. And
She didn't
so,
need anything from you, and
Yeah.
yet she was just providing safety by
Yeah.
being loving.
yeah. So when you think about doing that in your relationship, in your partnership, without criticism, without judgment, without causing them to be responsible for your happiness, and you making yourself responsible for their happiness, just take a moment, take that in, and see how you think that might make a change in every interaction that you have with your partner. You know? That feels good. Did you have anything?
I do have a couple comments.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything they wanted to say before he goes into it? No? No? Okay. Go ahead.
This is a really good section here. The two things about the text. One, the reason they fell in love is because of the effect that person had on their psychology without necessarily doing anything. They just naturally filled the gaps in terms of providing a sense of safety or a sense of pleasure, because he was attracted to her more than she was to him, but she felt really safe and sort of provided for and things like that. So they just had these natural psychological responses, which made them feel certain ways. And some of that might have been real love, perhaps.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think we could really survive on zero real love,
Right.
in a relationship. I mean, I think you're right about the exchange rate, but I think he's right about the exchange rate, but there's got to be something more there. And I think that's that spark that keeps the relationship going after people learn how to heal themselves.
I think there's a lot more going on in a relationship that isn't covered strictly by real love.
Absolutely.
But assuming that they were brought together authentically, I think in this example here, it might be a little bit more on the inauthentic representation, just to show the charts and the trading and stuff. But in reality, there would be some authentic connection happening, obviously. But at any rate, I wanted to say in the example, the hypothetical here, I think their psychology is being affected by the other person, but nobody's really doing anything. That's just the response that somebody's having on someone. And I'm not doing this very well. How two people have an effect on each other, the right people will make them feel in love, but really it's just a combination of imitation love behaviors that just fit like a key in the keyhole. So I just want to point out that it's an accident that the trading kind of works.
Yeah.
And without sufficient real love, that accident of trading, key in the lock kind of thing, goes away after a number of years. Case in point, it goes away if the exchange rate changes on that, on that box there, where Greg says, well, in his talks at least, he says, why do people get married? To lock in the exchange rate. And I wanted to point out about that. I said to a couples coaching session the other day, last week, or the week before, scorekeeping is a one-way ticket to hell.
Yeah, scorekeeping
because
is
they were doing that. And it's actually in the book. This little chart there shows how scorekeeping is a one-way ticket to hell, because I remember how much we used to fight about scorekeeping at one point in time, and it never works. I mean, it's instantly gets you on the field of death. So if you start holding people accountable to the trading that you expect that isn't being fulfilled like it once was when you're empty, then you're just going to go downhill fast. So the real love is so important to institute as early on as possible, so that you're not just relating by default and by imitation love and sort of by accident. You don't want the ego to be kind of calling the shots in terms of the effect you have on each other. And that's why they call it in love. And because once that shifts, the ego can get volatile very quickly in our emptiness. And that's when problems start happening. You didn't do this for me. how, the expectations start coming up. That's the exchange rate, the expectations and the resulting disappointments. So we have to base our relationships off of something deeper than that in order for it to have a real staying power, and so that we can both get loved.
Yeah, true that. You.
I love that you said that, Todd, because it's not, I mean, it can be as a conscious decision. I'm going to trade this for that, right? Like, I know if I give him sex, he'll be nice to me tomorrow or something, but in most cases, especially in the beginning, it's an unconscious thing that's happening. It's not,
Yeah, for sure.
right?
100%.
So I
For
like
sure.
that you brought that out. And as you were talking about, there's some authentic love happening. That's what Matthew was whispering in my ear. He's like, no, I really loved you from the beginning. I was like,
We're
both
engaged.
and, right? A both and, I
I
think.
didn't do it. I didn't do that.
And I'm
That's
like,
it.
I loved you too, baby. He's like, maybe you're just saying that.
Oh,
You've been
Maybe you're just
brainwashed.
saying that.
But, right? I think it can be both. I think we can actually care about another person's happiness without wanting anything, while also some days we're trading because we're
oh God, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah. This isn't to pull out fault or blame, or I mean, it can definitely create a discussion and say, have we done that? And if you have, that's okay. It's just having recognition and going, hey, how can I improve this? How can I see you better? And
Right.
we can't really see the other person unless they're willing to tell the truth about themselves. We might know or think we know, but in those moments, if we do think we see them in behaviors, it's not the time to go, hey, I can tell that you're trying to get power out of me. So stop it. Cut it out, buddy. No, we just go, hey, you need a back rub?
Right?
Hey,
Empty.
can I get you some?
Yeah.
How you feeling today, buddy?
Yeah, we're all works in progress, and by no means are we perfect at any of this. We have our days. I think it's the thing is just being deliberate and conscious as much as you can, as soon as you become aware of it, in which case you can respond and choose again.
Yeah.
And I agree with Susan. I'm glad she brought it up, that when you're in it, when you're in love in the beginning and with less awareness, it is unconscious or subconscious, and like, there's no fault in that. It's just, is that something you want to base lifelong decisions on? And, you want to become as conscious as you can, as soon as you can, so that you can choose again, like we said. And as soon as you find yourself feeling things like expectation and disappointment, it is becoming conscious.
Yeah.
Because you're having an emotional response, and then you have the option to choose again. And hopefully you have tools like Real Love or what have you that'll do it. We get into shit once in a while too, and then we realize, because we've done this so many times, how long we can tell by our communication how long we want to stay in that shit.
Yeah.
We never have it out like we used to. We come back together, we work it, and you just keep building on it as much as you can. But by no means is it, you did it wrong then, and here's how to do it, and damn it, you're going to do it right from now on.
I know, it's like,
That is
you're
not,
not my dad.
Yeah, that's
not your mom.
that's
not hot.
No. I'm not talking about relationships. I'm talking about applying the material.
Gotcha.
It's like, I feel like when people read books, they really, myself included, I think we have a tendency to, and this is, Real Love is good stuff, but we have a tendency to really apply and kind of get hard on ourselves about
That's right.
how well we're applying it.
Yeah.
And we have to be gentle with ourselves about how we're applying it, because then the ego can weaponize that, saying you're doing real love wrong.
Right.
But really more real love means more, things like tolerance and care.
Vulnerability and honesty
Yeah.
and openness, and having a safe place to do that and say that. Yeah.
Safe
Which
place.
you guys do. You want it with us.
You all have a safe place. Do you hear me?
God.
So yeah, be gentle with yourself, be kind to yourself. This does bring up stuff. It definitely brings up the ego, and we haven't even scratched the surface
No.
yet. It does bring up the behaviors, and that's why we're in it together. We're two more agreed the ego cannot stand. So we're going to be making really cool progress together as a group as we navigate these things, and things come up, and that ego is not going to get the better of you as we pull different things up and can talk through it and get kind of seen around it.
Yeah, good. All right. So I want to tell you guys about something that we're going to do. So to let you know, we want to do a membership drive or a membership contest. Yay, contest. All right. Because we want more people like you who are amazing in the group. They could be at any level on their relationship patterns. It could be like they're super happy relationship. We do a lot of fun stuff, as you've noticed. At least I think it's fun with the prompts and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Fun.
I've enjoyed
Thank you all
answering
for
the
your
prompts.
participation in the prompts. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really fun to read everybody's stuff.
It
Very
is.
cool. And so we're going to do, so whoever invites the most people for the next 7 days. So next from this Wednesday to next Wednesday. So forth.
Give or take.
We are going
Couples?
to couples. Both people don't have to join. It can be one or the other.
But the people they invite should be in a relationship.
In a relationship. Yeah, because that's what we're here for.
Yeah. It's not a
And
singles group.
no, it's not a singles group. And whoever is the most that you invite the most people and they join, we're going to give you a copy of the 365 Days of Love, Your Journey of Lasting Intimacy and Joy. Todd and I did this one, and it's basically ideas and prompts, 365 ideas for you to go and have adventures together and stuff like that. So there's that one. We're also going to do a raffle. So if you invite one person and they join, you're
included in the raffle.
You're included in the raffle. And then also to all of our new members, over the next 7 days, we're going to include them in a raffle. And so all of you will have the opportunity to win the book. So invite everyone.
Please.
Yes.
And this is, this isn't the state lottery here. There's only like 30 people in this group. So there's a very good chance of you winning, if you participate here.
That's right. So yeah, but it's basically a little journal type book. And I put stickers in it. I mean, the stickers don't come with the book, but because I'm artsy like that, I like to put stickers.
Because you love us. You love us. You went above and beyond.
So like I did this one.
I love that book.
Just fun little things that you can do. I mean, let me read a couple. Attend a live performance, like a player concert, go bird watching, have a laughter-filled session with funny YouTube videos.
That's great.
Take a weekend getaway, take a day to explore flea markets and antique shops, share what matters most to you with your partner and vice versa. And then the journal pages are available so that you can write in about your adventure. So
go to the lumber yard and look at wood.
go to the lumber.
Yeah.
Yes. Look at wood.
That's great.
I got to write that one in there. I got to put that one in.
It is actually pretty fun because then they turn into cool things, but
Oh yeah. I like anything like craftsy. It's so
Yeah.
good. All right. So does that sound fun?
yes.
Okay, good.
I was thinking, how did you know to activate our inner competitor? Smart.
So if you want my praise,
Must win, must win. I don't care what the prize is. I just have to win.
I'm getting the praise of these hosts.
I'm getting the praise. I am building safety, praise, pleasure,
We're giving
Power
competition.
to the winner.
We want to demonstrate power, praise,
we want to
pleasure,
give
and
you as many
safety.
opportunities to trade imitation love as possible during the time we do this book study.
Oh my God.
So we want to tell you what not to do so that you can do it.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so funny.
Kidding.
All right. If you guys want to check out and say goodbye, cool.
Okay.
How you guys feeling?
How's the material
Good.
landing? How's the discussion feel?
Very good. Just so you know, I'm watching you on the iPad, so you don't think I'm not looking at you.
Oh, that's okay.
Cool.
I wear
That's okay. Even
whatever
if you,
transitional lenses, and if I'm not looking straight, it's hard to see, so I do it.
I know I've got those too, where I have
Yeah.
to look underneath my glasses and I look like crazy,
I'm watching it on Facebook.
Oh, thank you.
Cool.
That's awesome. That's dedication. They have two screens
I
dedicated.
I was curious. I was like, I wonder, is he watching the ball
Watching
game
TV.
on the?
Yeah, that's what I
No.
thought.
I thought he was listening in. like,
Just listening.
in.
Yeah.
So cool.
Great.
Matthew said he likes your haircut, Todd. You missed that. That
Oh,
was
thank you.
checkout.
Yeah.
Get it.
Babe,
I just got out of the shower. I conditioned it. It's very voluminous.
it's very
Got a
fast.
microphone.
I like your haircut, Matthew. It looks real nice.
I'm sorry, baby. I poked him. I know I poked you. I'm sorry.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah, a lot of upkeep. Yeah, I can
Yeah.
tell. Mhm.
Especially fortune hair products.
My checkout is I love being with you guys. You're awesome. All of you. I'm happy to meet you, Elena.
Me too. Yeah.
Thank you all for attending. I really
Thank you,
appreciate seeing
guys.
your faces.
You.
Love the energy. And we'll see you next week. Elena unmuted herself. How are you doing, girlfriend? This is your first visit with us. How do you feel?
I feel very good. And also love the energy of the group. Of course, you know, Kyra, how much I love you.
Oh, I love you too, honey. I just want you to say my name all the time. Kyra.
Kyra? Kyra.
It's pretty nice. I like it.
Yes, and I see that I'm the only one here with the English as a second language. So I would really appreciate if you, Kyra, specifically would speak slower, especially when you're reading. Yeah.
Good. I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I can follow, however, I'm like trying to concentrate too much, a little bit kind of extra, to make sure that I'm following the reading and then I'm not really into the meaning.
That's great. That's a great note. I do tend to read a little bit faster because I'm trying to get through the content to get to the debrief.
Yeah.
But that is a really good note. So thank you for sharing that with me.
And I
appreciate
really
it.
love, and I really love that you take time, guys, for all of us to express opinions or give the examples, think about what we just read about, and get more out of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. Yeah. And she's saying, if you didn't hear her, it's a little bit low, for all of us to think about the content that we just absorbed and having any other things. And if you guys are on Facebook and you think of something later out on this thread, please comment and say, you know what, I thought of this thing when I watched it again, or when I thought about it later. That would be great, because just having that interaction, just to know what you guys are really needing and what you're looking at, is really helpful too. So great notes, Elena. I appreciate you.
I love you.
I love you too. All right, guys. April, how you doing?
I'm doing good, and thank you so much, because I am just picking up these golden nuggets left and right of, refining this girl. And thank you. Yeah. Everybody's comments. Thank you. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we will see you all next week if you're able to come. Those of you who are on Facebook, feel free to comment on this thread.
Yeah.
And do you have anything else you want to say?
Yeah. I noticed the last video got a lot of views, and I hope that means people are actually watching it.
Yeah.
Like in the group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Way more, like 30 plus. So I'm hoping that people are going to watch this too, who have not attended live, in which case, if you're watching this and you're one of those people, feel free to join us as a Zoom person next time too. There's a lot of room on the Zoom.
Yeah. And it's not scary. It's not like we're deep diving into your psychology,
No.
Or picking apart your, no, you pay for that.
No, you pay for that. Yeah.
I was going to say, is
Money.
it starting next week? And if we put hashtag live or hashtag replay on the videos, it helps people find the group, the more interaction with the live videos. And so then in addition.
Perfect. Okay, good. Yeah. So you can
So
hashtag
winning
Let's
live.
book.
talk about our day after the finishes in the comments.
Yeah, right. All right, guys.
All right.
Well, I will see you next week. I hope you have a beautiful week. Mwah, mwah, mwah. You're beautiful. I love you.
Thank you,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you. Love you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.